welcome back to Third Win Thursday. It is episode number 7, and it's May 4th, 2023. I'm joined by Eric and John, partners at TWG. How we doing, gentlemen?
What's up, everybody? We are back. We are back. We're in the middle of NBA playoffs, in the middle of NHL playoffs. The draft just happened. Does it get any better than this? I know we were saying literally 3 weeks ago, does it get any better than this? But does it get any better than this, gentlemen?
It just keeps getting better and better. And I'll be the one to say it. May the 4th be with you all.
Somebody had to do it. Somebody had to do it.
Had to do it.
First time I heard it today, so
Eric said it to me about an hour ago as well.
I'm rolling with it. And Scott,
big Star Wars guy.
It's almost nighttime for you, so man,
it is.
No Star Wars in the UK.
Exactly. All right. Well, we'll get right into it. And first of all, I want to get your reactions to the draft. Will Levis falling to round 2. A lot of depth in the draft this year, I feel.
Should have worn our jersey.
Maybe give your top 2 takeaways from the draft, and then which 2 teams you think did the best drafting this round.
All right, I'll give you my first takeaway, which is it seems like Roger Goodell is going to need to get like a chiropractor or something, because the way that those guys like hug him and lift him up, and like I don't know, his handshake game was pretty strong this year. So that's takeaway number 1. Hopefully Goodell's spine is still intact after all the hugs and handshakes. Number 2, I don't really feel bad for Will Levis at all. All right, like the guy's going to get paid. All right, he's already. If you look at his endorsement deals, he's already getting paid. Like he's fine. So he also probably is in a pretty good situation with Tennessee. My big takeaway was this draft was not that exciting after the first round. Like I didn't really know too many of the guys. Maybe I just haven't been watching enough college football, but I was reading that the scouts were underwhelmed with the class this year. And what I'm starting to look at is the Caleb Williams 2024 NFL draft. And that is going to be nuts to see who tanks the hardest to land the USC Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, Caleb Williams.
Fair enough. You know, all my news is all Baltimore. So the best part of the draft was before the draft when Lamar got signed, and I got to go around and say some choice words to a few people and remind them who our quarterback is now for the next 5 years. But I have to say one of the best picks is also from the Ravens after the draft, signing a center who blew out his ACL. He's going to be very useful for us in the future. Got him for a nice free after draft pickup. And again, Eric DaCosta just being a genius, putting good word out there for us Erics.
Hey, I think for me the biggest headlines was Belichick drafting both a kicker and a punter. First time since
that's actually pretty funny.
I think the 2000 draft or something like that. But
he loves special teams. He's a huge special teams guy. So if anyone was going to ever do that, it's Belichick.
Hey, special teams carried our team for a few games last season, so I'm not mad about it.
So the post Brady era is going really well in New England. That's exactly what you're saying.
Hey, it's a process. At least we're not one of those teams that loses their star and then ends up being like 1-16 the next season. So, we're average. We're not doing great, but I feel the comeback slowly creeping in. Maybe not this year, but
Scott, New England should tank for Caleb Williams. That's the new strategy. That's why they drafted the kicker and the punter, because they really do not want to win this year.
There we go.
There it is.
I don't think it's in Bill's DNA, but I'll take it.
You're right.
All right. Well, let's get straight into the headlines, and going to be a little bit different to start today, because we have like a few headlines that kind of mesh into a larger theme that we're seeing across not only sports, but not only like football or soccer or basketball or whatever, but just across the board. So let's get it started. Now, we've seen a lot of infrastructure deals going through. Nashville just passed a $2.1 billion funding for the Titans. And then we have the Bills Stadium deal is nearing final approval. The A's want $500 million from Nevada by June 5th in order to make the move. And that's also like specifically for acquiring land and then other stadium related expenses. And then it's said to be that the Commanders are also looking to tee up a deal within the sale for a new stadium. And then we have the KC Current opening a new stadium, which is huge for the NWSL. So we're seeing a theme across the board here of a lot of infrastructure projects across sports. And let's get your thoughts.
Well,
apparently infrastructure is recession proof.
let me give you an asterisk on that, Eric. Sports and entertainment infrastructure is recession proof. This just tells me that this country is more addicted to, obsessed with, idolizing sports than it's ever been. Because like to really be able to push through something like this politically, whether you're in Nashville or Las Vegas or whatever, you got to have buy-in from not even necessarily the politicians, but the politicians, they want anything like this to come through because it just means oh, like, look what we did. We helped bring, this team or this new stadium. Look at all the economic activity. Look at all the jobs. But for the public to be able to say, all right, yeah, like we will invest our tax dollars into this. Yeah. That just shows me it's never been a better time to be in sports entertainment because everybody is like, hell yeah, let's go spend $500 million on a new stadium.
When Scott sent us this list of stadiums and all the investment going in, my initial thoughts I had was, one, of course, the Bills are still building an outdoor stadium. Two, the Commanders better actually be in DC or somewhere close. I saw something about Richmond, and that's just, I'm sorry, Richmond, but no football team for you.
Yeah. How could they call themselves the Washington Commanders at that point?
We'll see where they're at. Maybe it's gonna be another name change. And last, I saw Orlando was trying to get some teams, and there's no way that Disney is not gonna let that fall through. I can picture the Disney Resort Universal plus a game package already coming in. So they're definitely gonna be pushing along with the government around there too. So just a lot of investment in sports and entertainment infrastructure, and we'll see how long some of these things take, where the construction comes to life. But I mean, even when I was out in LA, the Intuit Dome for the Clippers should be ready next year. More and more infrastructure going in there, and that's supposed to be an incredible, feat of engineering and everything in that place. And so there's a lot of changes coming in and a lot of ownership around too.
One last thing is that everybody is wanting to build like a sports and entertainment district. It's no longer just a stadium. It's let's build the stadium or the arena, then let's build a whole, ecosystem, a whole empire, if you will, around that. So let's bring in more food and beverage. Let's bring in shopping. Let's bring in, hospitality, hotels, apartments, etc. They want to build these to be like little, I don't know, adults, fantasy lands, if you will. And you know what? I'm kind of here for it.
Yep. And you know what? Sorry, Scott, you're going to hate this, but they need to get away from stadiums like Gillette, where you are 45 minutes to an hour outside of a city and there's nothing around it but a giant parking lot. Sorry.
Nothing like Foxborough. How dare you? How dare you squander the name, Eric? But anyways, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is money. And as we saw...
When are we not talking about money, Scott? We're always talking about money.
That's very true. But as we saw from these deals, most of them or all of them are above $1 billion, which gets me into something also infrastructure related. But this is the Man U negotiations going on. And Sheikh Hassim has offered $1 billion specifically to do upgrades on Old Trafford. Now, this is interesting because a lot of the stadiums in Europe and the rest of the world are like institutions. So we don't
Mhm.
see that much development going on around them. We have seen a lot of renovation in the past few years. Camp Nou, Bernabeu. Now you have United going in. But what makes this interesting is that there's currently two $6.3 billion bids in. Sheikh Hassim wants 100% ownership, and now he's putting in $1 billion extra for that. But the competing bid is for only a majority stake, which would allow the Glazers to keep a minority stake in the team, which might be of interest to them. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
kind of the discussion going on here.
I remember a couple weeks ago we were talking about, was it the Commanders bid when everything was starting to go through with them? So maybe we'll jinx something again here and push some bids forward. But I know that this bid coming from Sheikh Hassim out of Qatar, it's definitely again a lot of investment. We've been talking about a lot of bids and ownership transitions that have been coming up in a lot of different sports over the past couple weeks on our show here, and this one, with the amount of investment that he's offering in, is very interesting to see what the board of directors are going to be thinking, what it's going to do to the process. But I know that 100% ownership has to be crawling at some people who do not want to give up their ownership. So this will be a very interesting behind closed doors, I'm sure, negotiation process. But to talk about $1 billion of investment for a stadium as famous and as historic as Old Trafford, it'd be incredible to see, but also incredible to actually see play out.
So one of the things I saw from this piece was Cristiano Ronaldo talking about how there hadn't been any like renovations like in the 20 years in between his stints in Man U. So he's like, yeah, the same stuff that was there when I was 20 years old was still there when I was just there, a couple years ago. So it sounds like they could really use this investment. But what's to say that, if the Sir Jim Ratcliffe group won the bid, they couldn't find financing to do something like this. So
Yeah.
it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Any predictions, Eric? Who do you think is the ultimate winner? Or do you think they sell it at all?
Qatar and Saudi Arabian ownership groups have been taking over a lot of soccer teams, and there's been a big push. PSG has always been historically owned. Man City, Newcastle with new ownership. So I think the Hassim might have a very good chance of putting together a bid here to really look at his overarching like business strategy and entice the people who are going to be signing on the dotted line. So I'd say the odds are probably in his favor, and we'll find out in about an hour that he
Breaking news. Breaking news. No. What do you got next for us, Scott?
All right, so that was a good teaser, Eric, into Saudi Arabia's influence in sport, especially across the pond for you guys. So I think there's been backlash against it, and then there's been people who have seen what money can do. For example, Newcastle being middle to almost top of the table throughout most of the Prem. So it'll be an interesting debate there for sure. But now Wrexham is about to do a US tour. Now, what's interesting about this is nobody had heard of this team until I think in the US like 6 months ago. And then over here in the UK like a year ago. And I guess what I want you guys to kind of talk about is here you have Ryan Reynolds and Bob McElhaney, who are the owners of Wrexham, and then they have seen success, obviously not at the top flight, but then you have all of these Saudi Arabian investors who are looking to kind of have their influence on the sport. And it's one's more money based, one's more building community around your team and trying to create the best chemistry to push for a title. So I think that discussion is interesting moving forward, and I think it's interesting to see also what a celebrity for the US can do in terms of selling out UNC stadium for not even second flight, but third flight team in the US.
Yeah, look, I will say one, I'm glad to see all the soccer headlines today. My boy Scott holding it down for us. Honestly, they probably could have sold out like Mercedes-Benz Stadium with how popular Ryan Reynolds has made Wrexham. And I won't act like Ryan Reynolds doesn't have money. He doesn't have Saudi Arabia money, but he put his money to good use here. And honestly, it's just the power of storytelling. You've seen what has happened with Drive to Survive in Formula One. People are watching Full Swing now and falling in love with golfers. And Wrexham has been clearly another opportunity for people to get attached to something, to sit down and watch something as a family, even over here in the United States, to see someone like Ryan Reynolds, take over what he's trying to do. Again, I literally think they probably could have sold out any stadium in the United States by saying Wrexham was playing and the people would come.
So look, something that I've really come to realize with some of these celebrity investors is that there is nothing quite like the combination of star power, storytelling, and sports. All right. Star power, as we've seen, is really, really powerful, especially in the investor suite, right? Or in the ownership suite. Like, why should anyone in the US care about Wrexham? Oh, because they really like, that show that Rob McElhenney was in, or those movies that they saw Ryan Reynolds in. They feel like they already know these characters. Where in the past, ownership was more about like some wealthy, really stuck up, really detached owner who you never see except when they're on TV or, up in the box. These guys kind of using their star power to get out there, into the community, right, and tell an incredible story. And literally sports, you can't script the type of drama and the type of stuff that happens in sports. Like the fact that Wrexham is actually good now, right? You actually couldn't have predicted that when they bought the club. They were probably even mediocre for the league that they were in, right, which is lower tier English soccer. The fact that they're actually moving up and getting promoted, you can't script that type of stuff. So this is just a powerful combination of star power, storytelling, sports. You put those together, you have an incredibly winning formula.
Amen.
Yep. And you touched on it, Eric, with the docuseries as well, which was huge for them to kind of get. Yeah, go ahead, John.
It doesn't have an S, but distribution was a key part in here too, right? They were able to distribute their documentary. What was it on FX or was it on Netflix?
Yeah, FX. Yep.
I mean, don't hate on or discount the distribution piece of this because the three of us could go buy a USL club, but like if we can't get a contract with Netflix or Amazon or FX or whatever or TNT, it's like nobody's going to hear about it, right?
Exactly. I think the most impacting thing about the headline was that they said Wrexham's first US game has already sold out, but they're playing names like Chelsea, United.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show their influence, at least in the US landscape. All right, back to Saudi Arabia.
Our favorite topic.
Here we go again. Saudi Arabia reportedly plans $400 million per year offer for Lionel Messi, aka the GOAT. Also, again, for all the people watching, I wore this on purpose today because Saudi Arabia will not get Messi. Barcelona and their scandals will get Messi.
I agree with that, but Ronaldo Messi again in the Saudi league.
Saudi Arabia is putting their money where their mouth is and where their pockets and wallets need to be, and where they are saying what they want to invest in. They're clearly showing that they want to invest in it. It's crazy the type of money they've been talking about, and it's changing sports. When you think about again in all types of different sports, you see what's happening in live golf, you see what's happening in ownership of different sports teams and the investment that's going into it. But Messi's already an ambassador of Saudi Arabia, so I'm sure this deal has to be enticing in some way to him. Obviously, as a Barcelona fan and as a Messi fan and someone who's not actually sure where to watch the Saudi Arabia League, and I watch a lot of soccer, I would really hope that Messi goes back to Barcelona. I'll take Man City. I'll take Newcastle. Anywhere but Saudi Arabia, please, Messi. And I know he's listening.
Look, I can tell you right now, Messi and Ronaldo and Saudi, like, I would never watch any of their games. But I don't think it really matters. And here's why. Because these guys have among the biggest followings on planet Earth on social media. And what do we know about young fans? They don't really follow the teams. They follow the athletes, right? So all they need to do is go and dominate in the Saudi Pro League and put their highlights out on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, etc. And then they can go selling their merchandise. Then they can promote, whatever it is that they're promoting, businesses that they own, businesses that they're, partially invested in. So it's like, if you get offered $400 million a year, you take $400 million a year. All right. I know, Eric, emotionally, you're going to be distraught if Messi goes and plays in an obscure league halfway across the world. But would you say no to $400 million a year?
Considering that another alternative is to play in another obscure league known as the MLS in Miami, I'm sure both options look nice to him.
Look, I think this is ultimately kind of an indication that it's like these guys realize how powerful their brand is in and of itself. It doesn't really matter where they play. They are an empire in and of themselves, so they can play anywhere they want. And then they can just leverage the internet and make, even more money. And they can just post their highlights in there. They'll be good to go.
Eric, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but he was also suspended by PSG for going on an unauthorized trip.
Look, don't get me started. He went to Saudi Arabia. It was a family vacation. He's an ambassador. He sent in his info. He sent in his request. PSG are just trying to bring the man down. Argentina won the World Cup.
There you
go.
He never should have left Barcelona in the first place. This is the ultimate take. Yeah, why did he go to PSG in the first place? Because Barcelona screwed up. Right? They screwed up the negotiations. They screwed up their finances. Yeah. So Barcelona has no one to blame but themselves for him ever leaving in the first place.
That's true.
Okay. He's coming.
All right. We'll take it back to the U.S. John,
this is an interesting
bread and butter. We talked about this the week Eric was on sabbatical. Kidding, no, but
yeah. So Cheryl Swoops, she's a WNBA legend. She says college players making more than WNBA players problematic. LSU's Angel Reese said her earnings surpasses what she'd make what she'd make with the WNBA's $70K minimum annual salary. NBA champion Rip Hamilton, nice, great throwback name there. He said he would have stayed at UConn for 4 years if he had access to NIL. I honestly think this is a little bit overblown from Cheryl Swoops. Would she agree that it is a good thing that Angel Reese is getting paid right now?
Yeah.
I would say it's awesome that Angel Reese has this opportunity to capitalize right now.
Yeah.
If she had been playing for LSU and won a national title just 3 years ago, she would have won the national title and then boom, it would have just been back to, making no money over the summer or, having to go play internationally or whatever. So yes, it puts the microscope on the WNBA's business model and like, why is it that we haven't been able to really increase salaries? But I think it's just a disruptive time in this space, especially for women's sports, which is trying to grow faster. I think the underlying thing here, though, is it is a good thing that NIL has passed so that players and athletes like Angel Reese can capitalize right now and make money right now, whereas 3 years ago she would not have had this opportunity.
Yeah, and the biggest thing I see is it proves to brands, to television, to everybody who might be involved or might be investing, whether it's a small amount now into the WNBA, it just kind of proves that there's marketability and there's value. You know, that people have always said the only difference between men and women's sport is that men's sports get the money and get the sponsorship dollars, but the same thing could go. So I don't really see it as problematic for the for the WNBA. It's kind of like a little bit backwards compared to how other sports have grown, where the pros went first and then the collegiate started to make a little bit more to catch up. But now, to me, it just shows that once these current college athletes, if they wanted to play in the WNBA, the money will start to go there, probably slower rather than quick as it should go, but it's going to have more proof and more validation of what's happened in the marketplace because of the NIL deals. So I think that's been good. And again, it's just showing more and more opportunity. And I saw, I was listening to Dawn Staley was on the Pivot podcast a couple of days ago, the coach of South Carolina, and she was talking about how after their loss, you know, her entire starting five got drafted like top 10, and they knew that there was opportunity for them at the highest elite level of what the next level is going to bring for them beyond their NIL deals because of what they've learned during the NIL years and transitioning into it. So honestly, I see it. I guess I wouldn't say like overblown, but I think it might be misdirected. Like Angel Reese and all these girls now, yes, some are not going pro, but they're getting more and more opportunity to figure out how to build their value and how to be prepared for the next level, even more so than people were, you know, a couple years ago.
So here's my final point, which is, what does the WNBA need to grow? Well, they could follow the NBA model, which is they need stars, right? So we need to develop stars like Angel Reese in order to, once they get to the WNBA, we have more interest and more attention and more fans and more, we can capture more dollars in the media deals, right? If you're the WNBA, like eventually Angel Reese, if and when she does go to the WNBA, she's going to get paid, all right?
The WNBA's got 1 year until Caitlin Clark's ready to be in the league. Like it's
and then, you know, you get to a point where now you're going to have Sabrina Ionescu and Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and, you know, Aaliyah Boston all in the WNBA. Now all of a sudden you're developing stars, you're developing, you know, and you got more of a feeling of like, who are these players? Who are these individuals? Right. Because we've seen them go through their college journey. Right. And then it's all the more exciting. We want to know more. We want to know what's going to happen next in their journey.
Yeah. What docuseries will the WNBA have?
They should go the Hard Knocks route. Start following a team every year.
I like it.
Why not? Why not?
Also, I think just all of these college players, some will decide to go pro and they will take their partnerships with them and they will create a new landscape for WNBA partnerships as a whole. So as the league continues to grow, the money will continue to grow and the brands and the value of these players will continue to grow, and some will choose to go a different route, and that's the beauty of having choice over what you do with your brand and the value that you bring. So with that, let's get into the third win. It's a bit different today. I'll give you a little bit of context, but former Bachelorette contestant turned fitness and wellness expert / TV personality teamed up with Schwinn on this Let's Play Bikes campaign, which is looking to target the decline of unstructured outdoor activity among youth. And there's a few cool opportunities here, not related to sports or franchises, but still a cool initiative and cool partnership. And there's a lot of collaboration between brands as well, which is what we like to see, land and expand, as one of us here would always say. And all of us have adopted since.
Amen to that.
Well, yeah, I like it. I mean, we always talk about this. How do you stand out in the marketplace? all right, as a brand, as an individual? How do you stand out in the marketplace?
Hmm.
We would argue that you've got to find a way to show your customer and your community that you care. So I think this Schwinn, their brand, they understand that this is a big piece to that. Giving out scholarships, running a campaign that's focused on play, exercise, health, well-being. Kudos to you guys. Keep it up, because how else are you going to stand out in this marketplace? This insane, 24/7 advertisements, content, everything always coming at you. You got to stand out in a certain way for your target market. And I think this is a good way of doing it.
Yep. And Schwinn is a part of the parent company, is also like a sister brand of Mongoose. And so a lot of like those big bike brands that are out there. And this is a way to not just say, hey, we're doing something good. Look at us. This is them authentically. And I don't like to use that word often, but them sharing what, they're up to and who they're working with and how they're educating and empowering youth, and making sure that there's more and more opportunities for the youth to get involved, and again, to highlight a need that's out there. And so I think this is definitely a 3-win partnership for sure, and something that Third Win Group would be proud of.
All right, John. Spotlight goes to you, Coach Bacham, back in the seat.
Timeout has been called.
Everybody, bring it in, real quick. Take a knee. The response from the earlier coaches' corners were so strong. We're just going to keep it going. So I actually have a question this week for our listeners. All right, and I wrote this down yesterday, and that is: do you want to be the GOAT, or do you want to be loved and respected as a human being who happens to be a great athlete or entertainer? Right now, this is an interesting question. Seems like almost every athlete gets into it to try and be the best, to try and be the greatest. But let's be real, there can only be one, right? There can only ever be one greatest of all time. And so if that's the end goal of your career, you have almost no chance of succeeding, right? So it's, to me, what we're seeing and what I encourage clients to do, even our young clients who are either, just starting their college career or getting into professional ranks, is there's more to, this opportunity as an athlete than just trying to be the greatest, right? I think the opportunity is to develop yourself as a whole person, really, right? Start thinking early on in your career, what else is there that I want to contribute? What else am I good at? What else am I interested in, right? One of the things I love, and I'm a Georgetown guy. I grew up going to watch John Thompson Jr., Big John, coach at Georgetown. One of the things that he always said, and I'll quote him, is you never want the sum total of your value to be the 8 or 9 pounds of air inside of a basketball. And so that applied to his basketball players, right? But it can apply to any sport, or if you're an entertainer, any field that you're in, which is, all right, don't make it, yes, focus on your craft, but realize that, there's a lot more to life out there. There's a lot more that you can give, and, realize that you're most likely not going to be the GOAT. All right. And that's okay, because you have so much more you can contribute. There's going to be a time where you're not performing on a field or a court or a stage or a rink, right? Start thinking early and often about, okay, how else can I be a loved, respected, contributing member of society? And if you start asking yourself that question early on, I think you will reap the rewards throughout your entire career, your entire life. And that's Coach's Corner.
There we go.
But I'm going to be the GOAT of obscure podcasts for sports and entertainment professionals. Sorry, we're going to be the GOATs.
Hey,
there you go.
There it is.
That's all we have for the week, gents. Thanks for joining as always. Thanks for the insights and for all the value. And
hit us up. Those of you listening, watching, send us a note, comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, all the platforms. And thank you for listening.
All right.
Peace, everybody.
See you next week.
Peace.